So today, let's talk about pre-processing. So you probably don't know in your C compiler, before it's actually compile your code from C language, C source code to assembly, it's the pre-processing. So there's a preprocessor to convert your code to another C source code. So what's the pre-processing? Why we need pre-processing? Let's see this example. So here I have an array. This array has 20 space. Okay, so I want to initialize this array, but I have a question. Is that okay? If if the index I mod 20 equal to 3 or 5, I want to assign this array will be 0. Otherwise, I want it to be I times the array size. Okay. And after I do that, I try to print out each element in the array. So this is a simple case. But okay, so here's the question. One time I figure out, okay, 20 is not enough. I have more data. How can I do? Okay, of course, I just change the size, right? So yeah, maybe I just change the size. Right now, I change this to 40, okay? But I still need to do something here, right? For example, I also need to do the updating on 40. And here, the mod, I need to do 40. And this one, I need to times 40. And this one, I need to times 40. So you can imagine like when you code, you got like more and more lines of 1,000 lines of code. You need to update each line corresponds to this size. And it's not so easy. And it's easy to give you a bug, right? Because if you just forget to update one line, if any single lines of code corresponds to the size, then you got the table result, unpredictable result. So okay. So in this case, the C languages, they provide a preprocessor. The preprocessor will replace some variable, or we cannot say it's variable, some special term in your code to a value you want. How to do it? It's called define. So when we use preprocessing, for example, we do include, right? For example, we do include. If we have this special term, actually the preprocessor will work on it. So here's the special new term. It's not include, it's called define. We can define a size 40 here. Then in this case, we can easily update this stuff together to be a size, 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 and size. Okay, so you can imagine that if we want to change the array size, for example, right now the size should not be 40, should be 400. Then we just change it. Okay, so why it's so magic? It's not variable. It's not variable. It's not integer variable or something. So the compiler won't know like how to compile it. But the preprocessor, how preprocessor do? The preprocessor, before you actually compile the source code, is convert every single keyword size, replace it by 400. So you can imagine that the source code you actually compile is the one we have so far. Every keyword size will be replaced by 400 after you pre-process it. So this gives us a lot of convenience. It makes us like make our life easy, right? We only need to change one line, then everything is changed. So with the special defined terms, we can do a lot of stuff. For example, we can define a machine version, machine 32, 64, and you can do something like, okay, so if machine is 32, I do this part, otherwise I do that part, or the machine number is 32, so what's the how many bits of integer, we can just print out this number 32, right? So this is one idea we can use. Another idea is we can make our code more like readable. How to do it? For example, for a new programmer, if I say if x equal 1, s equal 2, for new programmer, the new programmer won't be know what this means, right? Because end is a special term, and because you know this, I know this, we are expert, we know these languages, so we know end means end, logic end, right? However, if they don't know, let's do it. We can define end and the end. Okay, we can define. So in this case, in our source code, we can say x equal 1 and x equals 2. So for new programmer, or even this person is not a programmer, he or she can probably still like read this sentence. X equal 1 and x equal 2. It's really weird logic because it's never happened. It's always false. But you got the idea. So you can define special term for the symbol 2. So during the pre-processing, the preprocessor will copy and paste. It will copy and then to replace this. So it will copy this one to here, then compile it. You can also do this, a macro. So you define a special term. It's not a function, it's a macro. You give a special term here, and that's a variable y, kind of variable. And inside this function is the year 2020. During your pre-processing, it will copy 2020 into y and do anything like any replacement here. So this line will be changed to 2020 mod 4 equal 0 and 2020 mod 100 not equal to 0, or 2020 mod 2020 mod 400 equal 0. Okay, so in this case, your pre-processing will replace this line to this one and use this logic to compile it. It's called macro. Okay, so before the compiler, the preprocessor do this, will convert your source code, original C source code, to another source code, and use compiler to compile this source code. It's convenient, right? However, be careful about using macro. Okay, so give you an idea. If right now I use 2020, I use another term called a year, or we can say year plus 1. And we can say year integer year equal 2019. Okay, so if I have an example, what happened for macro? You can imagine that because macro is copy paste, you try to pass this year plus 1 to y. So this 1 will be changed to 0 2019. Actually it's year plus 1, so it will be changed to year plus 1 mod 4 equal 0 and year mod 100 plus 1 mod 100 not equal to 0, or year plus 1 mod 400 equal 0. Okay, so what happened for this now? You can see actually if you pay more attention here, the plus 1 and year is separate. It's not years plus 1 then mod by 4. It's 1 mod 4 then plus year. So this one will be changed to 1. This one will be changed to this one will be changed to 1. And this one, of course, it will be changed to 1. So in this case, it's definitely got the problem, right? Because year is 2019 plus 1, not equal to 0. So definitely it's not. But actually 2019 plus 1, 2020 should be a leap year, right? So because it's just copy and paste, it's not a variable, it's your compiler do anything during the pre-processing, not in the compilation. So it gives you some like a trouble if you don't pay enough attention on it. Okay. So in this case, how we fix it? So let's redo this stuff again. So actually, it's easy to do it. We can just add a special term here, y parentheses, y parentheses, and y parentheses, because it's just copy paste. So you will get y parentheses here, y parentheses here, y parentheses here. Then you can get the correct format for this macro. So macro is really useful, and I use it a lot. But don't just like overlook of some details of the macro, because sometimes you will forget this is not compilation. This is not variable. You might think it's a variable, but it's not. It's a pre-processing, just a copy and paste. Okay? There's other stuff to make the pre-processing more powerful. There's a new stuff called if define. Okay, so we know we have define. And actually there's if define, or sometimes you can say if and define, if it's not defined. Okay, so for the example, we can use it for debugging. For example, here, if we define debugger, debug is 1, then we can say, okay, if define the debugger, I print out, print error message or debugging message, not error message. Let's say some message for debug. I can do something like this. Okay, then end if. After you have if define this new terms, you need to end if to make sure the preprocessor know this is the end of if define. Okay, so for in this case, if I have a debug, I have defined this debug. Your preprocessor will figure out, okay, you already defined. So I will put this line in your code for compiler, for compiling. If I remove this part, the preprocessor will figure out, okay, there's no definition of debug. So I ignore it. I won't convert it into the source code you want to compile. So with this if define and define, you can make your code more flexible. You don't need to like always try to type a printf bubble message when you debug. You can just type it in advance and just trigger it by using define debug, this special term. You can also use undefined. Try to, for example, if you cannot find the head file, we will cover head file in the future. But if you haven't got the head file, you cannot see the head file, you define your head file, something like this. You can use if undefined, the header. This is something you can use. Okay, so this is how powerful pre-processing, and actually it gives the programmer a lot of flexibility, make your code much readable, and give us some like useful strategy to maintain our code. For example, you want to enlarge your array, you can just easily change your size. For example, if you want to debug your code, you don't need to like keep retype this like a message, error message. You can just trigger it by like define the debug. So it's really useful, but be careful if you want to use macros. You need to be like pay more attention about these macros because it's just copy paste. It's not a compilation. It's a pre-processing. It's just kind of a text edit, like a copy and paste. Okay, so this is the idea. I hope you enjoyed today's lecture. This is a short lecture. Pre-processing is really good tools. Try to like type some keywords, try to define some like a special term for your program and practice with this. And you will find it's really useful and it's really convenient to programmer. Okay, so hope you enjoy this lecture. See you next time. Pre-processing is awesome.